How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another video. And today we're going to be doing my Euro 2020 predictions. We're going to be picking who I think the Golden Boot winner is going to be, who I think is going to be the biggest disappointment country-wise, who I think is going to be the biggest disappointment player-wise, who I think are going to be the dark horses, who I think could surprise us the most, and of course, who's going to win it all from the start. We're going to be doing the group stage as well as the bracket stage, and we will also do a bracket stage in another video as well based on the bracket stage that ends up developing, and see how we did going through the groups from initially and seeing how it matches up with our own bracket stage. If you haven't done so already, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. And if you fancy some more content, give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch, where we'll be doing Manchester United career mode episodes over on Twitch, and we'll also be doing FPL stuff as soon as it is released. So make sure to tune in for that for next season. But without further ado, it's Euro time. Let's see what I have for my predictions. So this is the 6th group. So the way the Euros work, if you're not familiar, is there is 24 teams total, 6 groups of 4. The top 2 teams guaranteed go through to the bracket stage, and then 4 out of the 6 third-place teams, depending on how many points they get, go through as well. So only 8 teams get initially knocked out. A bit of a weird system. The World Cup's probably a little bit better in my opinion because you have more teams vying for the same amount of spots. So it makes things a bit interesting. So even third-place teams can go through. So hopefully we can follow along on that, and you end up picking 4 out of the 6 teams to go through. And it's all based on points, so it could be interesting how you select those. If you think a group's going to be quite close and a lot of teams are going to be on, let's say, 4 or 5 points by the end of it, then maybe one of those teams is going to go through because they're going to have 4 points, which is very difficult to beat coming third place. I think the most you can get is 5 points, and I believe that's if you draw against teams. Let's say you're team A and there's team B and C, you all draw against each other, and then it depends on how much you beat team D by in your group. So it could be quite interesting. Group A has my country that I've chosen way back in 2002 when I was playing the World Cup game, because Totti and Del Piero were insane. And I've chosen to stuck with Italy. And also, I would say if I had to pick a second team, I would say Portugal would be that. So Italy, I think, is definitely going to go through. I think not a lot of people are underestimating them. I think that Italy could easily win this group. I think the only team that would probably give them somewhat of a test because they're good defensively is Turkey. And I think at worst case, they'll get a draw out of it. So I think Mancini has done well, a bit of experience and a bit of youth in the squad, so I think Italy should come first. Turkey, a lot of people are missing the fact that they have some pretty good players. Çalhanoğlu, Söyüncü, they have a lot of good players in that squad. Play a back 3, so very solid defensively as well, and I think they could do quite well and maybe make it to the quarters or even semis, depending on how good of a run they get, but we'll see how that goes. I think Wales come in third here, and they may be one of the teams that sneak through. And I think Switzerland come fourth. I think what could potentially happen here is Italy basically gets 7 points minimum. And then Turkey will either draw or lose versus Italy. They'll probably beat or draw Wales, and they'll beat or draw Switzerland. So they'll probably get a max of 6 points. But I can easily see Switzerland are a pretty good team as well. Most notably would be Granit Xhaka and Xherdan Shaqiri that play for them. You still have Sommer, who also plays for them in goal as well. They have a few good players. Wales, Dan James, Gareth Bale, quite good in their own right. So it'd be interesting to see these teams play out. Turkey could get a win versus Switzerland and maybe a draw versus both Wales and Italy. Wales could get a win versus Switzerland and then maybe a draw, versus Turkey, and then Switzerland just basically loses all 3 games. That's definitely possible, but I think this is how the group will go. I think Italy are clear favorites in this one. And same for Group B. I think it's pretty straightforward. Belgium, just too good. Lukaku, Hazard when he's fit, De Bruyne if he's fit for this one, Courtois in goal. I just think they should have too much firepower for the rest of the group. And I think Denmark's going to come second. A lot of good players in central midfield, Eriksen being their most notable one. They have Kasper Schmeichel, obviously, in goal. If you follow FPL, and I think they're just a very, very solid team. Christensen, I believe, is is from Denmark as well. I could be wrong on that, but I believe he does play for Denmark, and he's also been quite solid. And if he does play for them, he could pose quite a threat. Defensively as well as offensively, because he is pretty decent in the air as well. Russia, I think, round out the third place spot, and Finland will come bottom of that group. Group C, I think this is where things could get a bit interesting. I think Austria, Ukraine, and Netherlands, this could be a situation where you have all three teams vying for around that like 5-point mark by the end of it. Maybe they all draw against each other, all scrapping for it. They all beat North Macedonia, and maybe there's an upset there. But I just don't think the Netherlands are coming in with that good a form. That being said, they still have some good players even without Van Dijk and Donny van der Beek. I think they should still be good enough to win the group, although I'm not convinced. Totally. I think they maybe get like 5-6 points, maybe. I don't think they win all three comfortably. And then Ukraine, I'm just not sure about them. Do I put them second? Do I put them third? I think them and Austria is quite close. Obviously, David Alaba, formerly of Bayern Munich, now of Real Madrid, is quite good. Players for them. Ukraine, Zinchenko from Man City will play in his proper position for them as well. And I think it could be quite a toss-up. I'm going to put Ukraine just edging ahead of Austria. I think it's going to be close, though. I think they might even be even on points by the end of it. And I think North Macedonia comes in at fourth there as well. So moving on to Group D, we're looking at the Scotland, England, Croatia, Czech Republic. Now, me personally, I'm very skeptical about England. I think that England are going to potentially... I don't have a good feeling about England in this tournament. I don't have a good feeling about England in this tournament, and I don't have a good feeling about how Spain could be in this tournament as well. I just think those two, England has a lot of quality up front, but very, very, shaky at the back, and with Maguire out, could be a big issue. And I think that Croatia is going to come first in this group. I think England get off to the wrong foot versus Croatia. I think it's a draw or a loss for them there. I think maybe they only get a draw or at worst versus Scotland, maybe, or maybe it's Casey and they get a draw and then they get a win versus Czech Republic and they just scrape on through in either second, most likely, or third. I think they'll probably come second. I think Scotland come third because I think they're still quite good. And quite balanced across the pitch. Very exciting, and they're going to be up for it as well. Haven't been in a major tournament for quite some time. I think it's over 2 decades, I believe. And yeah, it could be quite interesting. And this actually may favor England, believe it or not. So I'm going to go with England in second in this group. I just think Croatia, just that experience will see them through. They'll get at least a draw versus England. They'll beat Scotland. They'll beat Czech Republic. Group E, we have Poland, Spain, Sweden, and Slovakia. Spain is one that I'm still worried about. I still think they probably top it, but again, I think it's a situation where it's going to be like 5-6 points. It's going to be not going to be, win all three. They do have the quality, but with some issues potentially in the camp due to COVID, maybe some players having to miss out on half the tournament potentially and that sort of stuff, depending on how the COVID regulations work. That could be a bit of an issue for them. But I think Spain will definitely, edge it over the rest. I think Poland coming second, just being kind of brought up by Lewandowski. Sweden without Zlatan, I think they fall a bit short. Maybe they still make it through as one of the 4 teams, we'll see. And I think Slovakia come in 4th place. Now, Group F, the group of death as it has been coined, Portugal, France, Germany. I mean, all of those to be in the same group is absolutely insane. And then Hungary. I'm going to put Hungary at bottom, unfortunately. Now it's just a matter of picking which teams are going to, do well in this group. I think probably the favorites in this one is France. France has been, they won the World Cup most recently in 2018. They got to the final of the Euros in 2016, only losing out to Portugal, who are also in their group. Portugal, I think, are, can be very good on the day, very defensively astute. And it's going to be interesting to see how Portugal and France play against each other. I think that could be quite cagey. I think Germany could be very vulnerable on the break against Portugal and France, who have very good players, on the counterattack. Bernardo Silva, Diego Jota, Bruno Fernandes for Portugal, and Ronaldo, obviously. France have Mbappe, Griezmann, even Benzema. They could be, primed to be German. I think just Germany not having a consistent formation puts them third. I'm actually going to say that France and Portugal are probably going to end up equal on points, and it just comes down to goal difference. But I think I'll give that slight edge to France just because they have a bit more attacking firepower, I think, up front, whereas Portugal kind of prioritizes defense first. Now, this being said, we have 6 teams remaining. I think Germany's still good enough to go through. I think they'll get at least 3 points, which should see them through. I think they'll beat Hungary, no problem. I think potentially that, there's a situation where, again, France, Portugal, Germany all draw against each other. Just, trying to keep it cagey, trying to keep it in a situation where you don't get knocked out. And that would benefit all of them, because with 5 points, it just depends on who scores the most versus Hungary, and they would all guarantee themselves to go through. So I think Germany goes through. I think the second team to potentially go through is probably, just taking a look at the teams here, I think it could be Austria, I think Austria in this group here with the Netherlands, again, I think it's a situation where Ukraine, Netherlands, Austria could all be quite nip and tuck between them, very, very close. And I think that could be a higher scoring points with the, much more compressed between first and fourth. And then 2 more teams to choose from. I think, again, Spain, Poland, Sweden, same situation. So I'm going to go with Sweden. And then last but not least, this is pretty difficult to pick here, because I think Russia maybe only 3 points, beating just Finland. Wales probably have the best chance, although I'm just going to go with the outside chance that Scotland go for it and maybe get a point off of England, leaving England having ended up in the group with probably around 5 points, which is still enough to see them second place and isn't bad. You didn't lose against any of the teams, and you guarantee yourself to go through in the Euros at least, because at worst you'll be tied on 5 points with Scotland and Croatia, and you're guaranteed to go through, because that means that the Czech Republic didn't get 5 points. Basically, they would have gotten 0. So those are teams I predicted to go through. So let's move on to the bracket stage, and what a bracket stage it is to start off with here. Belgium, Germany, right out the gate. A very, very tasty tie. I think Belgium, just Lukaku's form, they have pace in behind, the trickery of Hazard. They have his brother Torgan Hazard as well. Dries Mertens. They're just so good and so lethal up front. I just think Germany's defense might not be able to handle that, and especially with Kevin De Bruyne pulling the strings, assuming he's fit, which I think he will be. It's only a facial injury, which he'll probably just wear a mask for, which is ironic because Antonio Rudiger, gave him the injury having worn a face mask. Italy versus Ukraine, I think it's pretty straightforward for Italy there. France, Austria, again, tournament favorites. France, I think they should be able to make it through quite comfortably. Austria may get a goal potentially, but I think for the most part, France should do quite well. England, Poland could be quite tricky. I think it could be quite cagey as well. Poland are usually decent defensively, don't really get battered by any teams. And England, tend to make things cagey under Southgate from what we've seen, unless they're up against, teams that basically shouldn't be playing because they're too easy. So I think England make it through. Spain, I think, should be able to beat Scotland. I think this is should be able to beat it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Scotland were up for it there. Croatia, Portugal, I think Portugal make it through as well. Netherlands, Sweden. Now this one could be an interesting tie as well. Sweden not having Zlatan, Netherlands not having Van Dijk, the battle of the teams that have their main player missing, as it were. I think Netherlands should just be able to beat them there as well. And then Turkey, I think, is going to be able to beat Denmark. I think defensively they're quite good, and they should be able to shut down Denmark's attack. And I think they could potentially get something off a set piece or something like that, which would be quite good for them. Moving on to the quarterfinals, and just before we do that, I will run through the teams. Belgium, Italy, France, England, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, Turkey. I mean, some really, really tasty ties in there. We're going to run through basically the teams that I think are going to be the biggest, the biggest disappointment, the biggest surprise. And I think to start off with, the biggest surprise of the tournament is going to be Turkey, I think. I think they can go far in this tournament. I think that they're playing well at the moment. I've seen bits and pieces of them, and from what I'm seeing, they could be very well underestimated and could be quite good in this type of tournament where you want to be good defensively, and a lot of teams are going to set up in that manner, and I think Turkey does it as well, if not better than most teams in the tournament, and are going to be quite comfortable playing in that low block and or mid block and breaking on the counter. My disappointments for the tournament is going to be England, because I think France are going to beat them in the quarterfinal. I just think with England's squad, I think a quarterfinal just isn't good enough. I think you have to be going to the semis or the finals, and at a bare minimum, I think you need to show what you can do in the group stages as well. Them coming second and probably barely scraping by Poland isn't good enough. Since they won the World Cup in 1966, England have not beaten one of the big name teams, as it were, so the Germanys, Italy's, Spain's, Portugal's, with the exception, I believe, of 1996, where they beat Spain in a penalty shootout when Spain had a goal chalked off in regulation time, which they probably shouldn't have, and they won on penalties as well. And that's the only time they've beaten somebody of that caliber of team, and I'm going to include Belgium in that now, in nowadays, Portugal in there as well, in a knockout stage game. You can go back and look at it, and if I am wrong on that, but I looked through it all, and I think I'm right on this one. 1966, and the only time was a Spain team that wasn't very good in 96, which they beat in a knockout stage. They've beaten teams in the group stages. They've beaten the Netherlands quite heavily. And they have done well in group stage games. It's just when they get to the knockout stage, they just haven't done it since they've won it, basically. So I think England will probably be the biggest disappointments in this one. Moving on to Belgium and Italy, and I think Italy win this one, and they are my dark horses. Bit of favoritism there. And I think they're going to be the dark horses. I think everyone sees them as this old, kind of slow, pragmatic team, but Mancini's got them playing some good football, and they are quite astute defensively. I think they've only conceded 4 goals in all of their qualifying matches, which is fantastic, and I think they could be my dark horses. Moving on to Spain versus Portugal, and this is actually where my Golden Boot winner is going to come from here, and it's going to be who do you think? It's going to be Cristiano Ronaldo in this one. Of course, he's the man of the moment. He's going to come in here and he's going to make sure that when he gets in that final, he's going to play the full final, and I think they could do quite well, which is going to set us up for some very interesting ties, probably potentially a final on the upper side of the semi-final bracket with Italy and France, and then on the lower side we got Portugal versus Turkey. And Turkey are going to give Portugal a good game. They're both going to be 2 very good defensive teams, but I think that Portugal will make it to the final. Italy versus France, I think this is just a bit it's very tough. Italy, are they good enough defensively to stop off France? I just don't think so. My heart says, go with Italy, but I think this is where they fall. And I think a semifinal performance when they weren't expected to be, getting anywhere past maybe the quarterfinals, let's say. They do have somewhat of a favorable draw, but they still have to beat Belgium through that. And I think this is where they fall just short. I think France are have too much quality in that. And then that leaves us to the final. France versus Portugal. To pick the winner here, again, it's a rematch of the 2016 final. And I think Portugal, back then, had a way worse team than what they did now. And Ronaldo wasn't playing for basically 80 out of the 90 minutes of regulation because he got injured around the 10-minute mark or so. I believe it was Dimitri Payet who fouled him, and he kind of twisted his knee. And then he kind of just limped around for 15 minutes and then came off. But France's team is quite good. It's just Portugal defensively are good as well. And I'm actually going to say that Portugal repeated, and I'm going to go with Portugal to win the Euros over France. I think it's going to be close as well. It could be a very similar situation where it's Man City versus Chelsea in the Champions League final. Portugal kind of playing out Chelsea style, very astute defensively, kind of nick one on the counter. If they get an early goal, they might be able to hold off France, who are going to have a lot of the ball. They're going to see a lot of teams, going through. And just with a lot of possession, they're going to be going through teams quite easily for the most part. But they're going to have to face some pretty serious defenses, Italy and Portugal on back-to-back. And I just don't think that they get it over the line this time. Having won the World Cup, yes. Could they do it, back-to-back World Cup and Euros, similar to how Spain did it before as well? I just don't see it. I think Portugal go back-to-back in the Euros here. Let me know what you guys think. So just to recap, Portugal, the winners. I'm going to have Cristiano Ronaldo to be the Golden Boot winner. I'm going to have Turkey to be my surprises of the tournament. I think Italy is the team that everyone's overlooking and is the dark horse. And I think England is going to be my biggest disappointment in terms of teams of the tournament. And I think my biggest disappointment of a player for the tournament is actually going to be Harry Kane. I just think for some reason, I just don't think Harry Kane's going to play well in this tournament. I just don't see it. He got injured. He was doing, okay at the back end of the season, but I just think something about him, maybe it's the, leaving Spurs on his mind, that seems to potentially play into, and I think he could be one of the players that may not, allow himself to play to the best of his abilities, which is ultimately why I don't think they'll go past even the round of 16 potentially if they come first in their group, because they could play the likes of Portugal or Germany right out the gate. But if they definitely go against one of those teams in the quarters, I don't think they're making it past it. So those are my predictions. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. This was on the UEFA site. Just type in Euro Predictor. It's a fantastic site. And yeah, let me know what you guys think of my predictions. And that's going to do it for my Euro 2020 predictions. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. We've got a lot more content coming out with the Manchester United career mode. We're going to have the finals watch along for the Euros as well. And anytime FPL comes out, we will let you know as soon as it is readily available. So keep those notification bells on. And give us a follow over on Twitter so that you can see when we retweet stuff, as well as any updates for the channel. And give us a follow over on Twitch if you want to catch the Man United career modes live. We will be doing 2 more episodes tomorrow and Friday. Those start at 7 p.m. EST. There's usually a pinned comment down below on the video to let you know when the next stream is. Thank you all for watching. Enjoy the Euros, and we'll be back with the bracket stage prediction for the actual bracket in a few weeks' time. Thank you all for watching, and until the next one, take care.